gentlemen, call to order the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners meeting this February 12th. It's a business meeting. I will ask Mr. Krupp to take the roll.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Commissioners. We are joined here this morning with County Counsel Stephen Madcore, and to my left is the Clerk of the Board, Mary Rathke. I will begin the roll. Commissioner Bernard. Here. Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Savas. Here. Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Chair Ludlow.
Aye. And that will you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, there's not a really thick agenda today, but we do have some citizens' testimony or communication, which we try to always put up first. So I will call forward Brady and Melissa.
It's Brandy.
There's an N in there?
You want to do last? Oh, Leslie.
Leslie.
Call Leslie first.
Well, then, all righty. The visitors will call the order. I've been pushed around before, you know. This is okay. I don't. No, I did that.
Brandy.
There's no N.
It's Brady. Brady? It's Brady.
Why didn't I say that?
Leslie first.
But there's no Leslie here. Oh, yeah. Right, we have these paper clipped together, and I've lost it. Leslie McDonald and Janet Packer, please.
Hi, my name is Leslie McDonnell, and I'm from Welches, Oregon. And about 3 years ago, I went through a very big crisis with regards to domestic violence. And there was no Safe Place Family Justice Center at the time. But what I wanted to discuss mainly is I went through some things alone, and I finally, with persistence, did find counseling through Clackamas Women's Services and then the Safe Place Family Justice Center. And I found out that they do videos with the courthouse. And I initially went to do a restraining order with my abuser. And it was very traumatic. Even discussing it brings back a little anxiety. And I ended up in the hospital both times when I saw my abuser because of the anxiety. I had a blood pressure level of about 220 over 198. And it was, ambulances were called to my residence because it became an anxiety level that, to the extreme that they thought I would have a massive stroke. So I ended up being with persistence, and my son persisting me to get better. I ended up with a counseling service with Clackamas Women's Services. And then finally I ended up at the Safe Place. And when I went to the Safe Place, I noticed that they had keypads and all these locks and things. I can kind of barely remember it because it was kind of a hard time in my life. But I remember feeling immediately safe. Oh, they buzz you in here. And my experience, I had stalking, severe stalking. So I didn't know when I was going to be, if I was being followed or whatnot. So when I got in there, it was just a sigh of relief. And I was then found about advocacy. And I had a lot of advocates that assisted me. And what they did is they gave me validation, which was very vital, because at times I thought I was losing my mind. I got empowerment, I got kindness and care. And if I had an advocate when I was going through those traumas, it would have been much nicer. Though I still had trauma at that time, but not as severe when I went to the Safe Place, but it still was a relief. And now I'm a volunteer advocate in Multnomah County. I've graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree. I have a master's, And I have a new life with my family and friends. And I believe it's all due to the Safe Place Family Justice Center. Because without that, I don't know that I would have succeeded. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You know, the Family Justice Center, known as a Safe Place, of course, is greatly supported by Clackamas Women's Services, and that's much appreciated. Its successes and its numbers this first year have been outstanding, and it's people like you who were seeking to help, and that's for sure. And I appreciate us knowing directly from some of the people we've helped what that meant in their lives. So thank you for coming forward today.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure.
So, now this time I think I got it right. I got to check this out now.
It was my fault.
So
Sorry.
Janet Packer and Brady. I got it right there. Okay. These phones go. Oh, your purse. Yes.
Good morning. I'm Janet Pecker, and very nervous.
It's all right. Take your time. You're amongst friends.
Thank you. A few years back, I was involved in a domestic violence where the man tried to take my life, and I became lost and shock and didn't know where to turn. When I was told to go from the police, they told me to get in touch with the victims advocacy, and I did. And I kept getting these, get in touch with these people, go here, call these people, do this, and I couldn't function. I didn't know what to do. I was terrified. And I remember hearing Clackamas Women's Service in there, and this was before the family justice system was, the collaboration was put together, and I didn't pick the Clackamas Women's Service because I couldn't afford to park down in, I couldn't afford the bus, I couldn't afford to park down in the Oregon City. So I found one of the other places. I called them, which I went there and they gave me an assessment because I wanted to get therapy. I needed some guidance, I needed help because I couldn't function. So I went there and they gave me an assessment and said, we'll set something up for 3 weeks. And I begged them, please, I need to talk to someone now. And they said, okay, next week. So I went back, and then they brought me in a room and gave me another assessment, and said we can set up something for 3 days. So every day I was struggling just to survive. I was having a really tough time emotionally, and I went back and was put in a room with a counselor who was male. And immediately I just froze up. And he asked me a few questions, and I kind of answered them, and then he handed me a cup and said, we need you to pee in a cup. And so I said, why? Why? I just really need help. He said, well, that's our protocol here at this service. And I said, well, I just want to help. I just need the help.
Go ahead, by the way. Go
Okay.
ahead.
And he said, well, we have to do that with everybody. Normally we work with offenders. And I said, then why am I here? Why has nobody given me the help that I need? And this went on, but I walked out, and I just felt like giving up. And my incredible parents were living in Eugene, and they said, come here. So I moved out there and found a women's space. And at the time, that saved my life. And I decided after getting help and going through counseling and feeling stronger and getting that empowerment, I decided to come back and go to school. And I graduate with my associates in June.
Yeehaw.
Yeah. And with human service generalist, and I am going to work with women in sexual and domestic violence. Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
And when Brady came to one of my classes of community resources, let me explain. When I came back from there to sign up for school, I wrote an essay, and in it I said, I'm going to school because I want to figure out how to get an easier way for women to get the help that they need going through this, and this system that was just incredibly hard for me to figure out. And she came to class and explained about the family justice system, and my jaw dropped. I wanted to get up and dance. I was so excited. And last term, I actually got to internship at the Clackamas Women's Services at the Family Justice System, and it was amazing. So please, don't take that away.
Well, then, now, let's specify, there is no plan
Okay,
to
good.
stop what we have begun at the Family Justice Center. Commissioner Bernard.
Well, I'm somewhat familiar with domestic violence. Certainly, I've heard a lot about it, but have family members, and you know, both of you, it takes a lot of courage to step up and move out and, you know, help yourself. Because like you were saying, you're getting counseling. Why are you getting counseling? It's not you. It's them. And until you decide that you need to take control of your life and go a different direction and put the fears behind and have the courage to do something, you continue in that abusive relationship. And I frankly, I think both of you should be very proud of yourselves. And the Family Justice Center, it was probably, when I leave here someday, it'll be one of the proudest things we did. And obviously the numbers prove it. And the lives that will be saved in the future are huge. And you know, I have a vision for the Family Justice Center, the piece of property that it sits that includes a campus where folks like you can work with your sisters, and you know, address those issues of courage. I don't know if you ever listened to TED Talks. There was this woman brilliant doctor, who got in this place that she couldn't get out of, and her abuser was very good at knowing how to separate her from her friends and family and society and put her in this position. And this is a woman who had her doctorate, and it doesn't matter who you are. You know, it's still, in the end, it was her and her courage that saved her life. And it's all about you. Until you make that step and have that courage, you continue in that lifestyle. But thank you for having the courage to do what you guys did to get out of the situation you were in, because frankly, we can't lose one of you.
Oh,
And so, thank you.
Commissioner Savas.
Well, congratulations for taking all those steps. I think what sold me on this when I first learned about the Family Justice Center model was knowing that the system of services is complex, and people that are in that crisis are not in the frame of mind to navigate much of anything. And navigating all those services, and people tell you need to go here, you need to go there. And so co-locating all those services into one place is what really the Family Justice Center model is really all about, so that someone in that crisis can go to one place and seek all that and feel that they're in a safe place, in a comfortable spot, and seek all those services and protections. So, and just the vast amount of services that are there is a tremendous benefit. So I want to thank you all for, for your comments and those of you that have been instrumental in moving this along. So it's been a joint effort, and all of my colleagues here and others out there and all the volunteers that are on the committee that helped make this happen, the sheriff's office, the district attorney's office, a lot of people deserve a lot of credit. So thanks for doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
And next, yes,
I don't have anything to follow up with.
microphone.
I don't have anything to follow up with. I think they've said it all. So
Well,
thank
Commissioner
you.
Bernard talked about courage to escape your abuser, but it also is very courageous for you to show up here today and tell this, and it means a lot to those out there watching. Let me remind people that the Family Justice Center is also a refuge for seniors who are being abused, and that's not talked about very often, but it's very important to note this is a safe place for both women in peril, frankly, men in peril, because from my family, see, I came from a family of abuse, very violent abuse, but it was my mother abusing my father. So it was, it is out there, but certainly not to the extent the opposite is, and it is out there definitely for seniors as well. Commissioner Smith.
Well, thank you. It's rare times when somebody comes before us and testifies that warms a commissioner's heart like you ladies have done here today, 2 days before Valentine's Day. I think it's very appropriate that you do this. Usually we're at the center of controversy over one thing or another, but I will take this home and keep it here. And thank you for your service. Man, you go, honey, on that degree and you show them what it's all about. You start a program like this and you don't know how it's going to be received, or you don't know if it's going to be used, so you go down uncharted territory. And this board has taken the leadership in that, and obviously it's going to pay off big dividends for the future. Yeah. We will make sure that this remains a priority in our budget. Although you're fairly self-sustaining is what I can see. You guys are doing a good job on fundraising from what I understand. And let's just hope that the community and our donors and all the taxpayers of Clackamas County continue in their efforts to make a safe place successful. But when you come forward with situations like this, we've all had experience with domestic violence at one level or another in the families. And I don't think it's even possible to not at least be unaware of it in today's society. It's out there. It's always been out there. We just decide to deal with it and shine a light on it. When you shine a light on things, they tend to get attention and help. So thank you a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. I might also note that it is very special that one person out there, per Valentine's Day, if you like, can help change another person's life. Brady was there. She talked to that. It enthused you. It inspired you. And so, it's great to have advocates like Brady out there, too, talking to people about what can be done instead of what should be done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now we have Mac Woods and Jose Hernandez Jr.
Don went and put it in the office.
Oh, he didn't.
You never know.
Putting him on the right side because I can't see on the left side, and he can't use his right hand.
What can we do for you, Mac?
Thank you, Commissioner, Chair John Ludlow, and Commissioners. I'm Mac Woods from out in the county on Maxburg Road. I want to talk about veterans and taxes today. We have many veterans right here in Clackamas County, and every one of them are legal voters. Some of them are service-connected, like both of us, 40% or more disabled for tax purposes in Oregon. Have you ever heard the question, If a large tree up in the Malala Forest is blown over by the wind and no one is around, does anyone hear it? Including Tootie, who lives there. And even better comments, he can't see the forest for the trees, not Tootie, that comment. That might be the real truth with some veterans, like myself, blind on the left side and hearing loss, heavy on the left side, loss. Both service-connected from military duty after over 20 years continuous active duty in the Navy. Last week, Mr. Ludlow, you gave us a personal example about 2 listings you had and asked for confirmation from me. I thought I heard you say a 2-year listing, and I answered yes, whereas I was shocked after I got home and listened to the CD later to discover you had said 20-year listing. I thought my ears was really bad. Well, today I want to tell you that was the first time ever to hear about a 20-year listing, and I want to talk to you more in private about that because that would be very extreme and very, very unusual, as we both know since we have both been principal brokers for over 35 years. Back to veterans, though.
Yeah, please.
Back to veterans, and many vets have more severe service-connected problems than me. Right here is one, for example. However, all of these vets together, disabled, are less than 0.1% of all taxpayers in Oregon. This includes us in Clackamas County and U.S. Navy SEAL Tyrone Woods. Who graduated from right here in Oregon City. In 1992, I saw him the day before he went into the Navy, my cousin. Back on with veterans. He was burned to death in Benghazi. However, his wife should be, as a spouse, get the tax exemption until she remarries. That's right, I know the rules on that. I clearly recall only 4 months ago, just before the election, when Senator Kurt Schrader and several other politicians flooded the newspapers and TV to talk about what they were doing for veterans, and heavy details on the memorial, the Tyrone Woods Memorial, just down the hill there about 2 miles from Beaver Creek Road. Yes, they put up a 4x8 plywood board, oh boy, right here in Oregon City, down the hill. That was just a bunch of hoopla to gain votes from the voters' bleeding hearts, as common sense should have told us back then, but it didn't. In my opinion, that is disgraceful for a politician to do that just to get votes. But look at what's going on today in Oregon with the governor after wasting almost $200 million on the now dead CRC and death of Revise Oregon, too. Not to mention the live-in supporter and the Wildwood Flower connected in Oregon. Should the news call it wacky-backy connection? My fellow veterans and voters, it's wake-up time in Oregon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mac. By the way, it is not extreme to take a 20-year listing.
Let's talk about that in private.
No, I'm not, well, like you did? It is.
No, you was the one that said it. I didn't say it last week.
Do I get to finish now?
Go ahead.
This happened last time, too. It is not extreme to have a 20-year listing for a broker. It's a privilege. It's been awarded to me in 2006 because of outstanding work. We would all hope we have it, but there's nothing extreme about it, you see, because it was executed between 2 people who agreed on same. Yes, Jose, welcome.
Thank you. My name is Jose Hernandez, and I've lived here since 1959 on my second enlistment in the Navy. I trained reserves down in Swan Island for 6 years, and my ship, the USS McGinty, was one of the first 7 ships to arrive in South Vietnam after France abandoned the South Vietnamese. I'm here today because I am very concerned, in part something that Mr. Woods mentioned, the dishonesty that exists among us all. And I'm not here to talk negatively about any one of you specifically, because you do what you think is right, even if it isn't. One of the things that we started out today with was the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance mentions one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All includes racial people, but yet we are mistreated nationally, statewide, Clackamas. One of the things that I have discovered along the way, and for what it's worth, I was chair of the Clackamas County Democrats a long, long time ago. When I when I retired from the Bonneville Power Administration, I was then able to get involved politically, and I created the very first Oregon Democratic Latino Caucus. I became involved in the party, and I was elected chair. A year later, a year after I had served at a Democratic Party fundraiser, one of the people that had helped me get elected was among three people talking about that Mexican. How did he get elected? And I had approached the coffee table and I was getting some coffee. Believe you me, that made up my mind that I was in the wrong place. I went home and wrote my resignation and resigned from the party because of the racist comments. That still bothers me. It bothers me a lot because I don't know. I don't know if it's because I am a Latino or why, but the aid, the help that I have asked from politicians has never, ever been served. And it's not that I was asking for something personal. For example, the USS McGinty was a reserve training ship where only 1/4 of the crew were active Navy people. The rest were all reservists, the majority from the state of Oregon. I have asked politicians, starting from the very top in the state of Oregon down to the political parties, let's us honor the USS McGinty as a ship that was in war with Oregonians on board. That has been ignored totally. And I have been trying to do this for over 10 years. So I am here begging you, when you talk to us because you want our votes or you want us to contribute to you, think of what it is that you're saying and be honest. And I wasn't prepared to do this today. That's why I don't have it in writing. But in 1967, while on duty, I lost my elbow. Okay?
Service.
I have since that time become 100% disabled, hearing, blah, blah, blah. I had 9 broken ribs. The Navy was going to install an elbow on me. I was in the hospital for 9 months, but they were not able to do it. So then they recommended the Veterans Administration, and I was admitted to the Veterans Administration Hospital on March of 1968, when I was released from duty from Bremerton Naval Hospital. I never complained because, like I say, I don't like to complain. My right hand was gone because of that. My left hand was the only thing that I had to use for everything that you and I do with both hands. This is all I had. And it got to where I couldn't move it. So I finally, because of the issues that the VA had in Arizona, I finally started to complain. And the VA couldn't help me. They sent me to the OHSU hospital. And I was told that there was nothing that could be done for an elbow. They could install a plastic elbow that would have restrictions of no more than 2 pounds. Right now, I can lift 30, 40 pounds up to here. I can't raise it up, but I can lift it. And I'm not going to lose that and allow them to install a 2-pound limitation on my ability to use my hand. Now, who's to blame? I was admitted in 1968 for an elbow replacement. And the orthopedic doctor that admitted me into the hospital went out deep sea fishing and drowned. He and other medical people on the boat died. They knew what I was there for. They did nothing. Now, at my age, I was born in 38, there is nothing that can be done for me. And who's to blame? The Veterans Administration. Because of my learning how to keep quiet, I never complained to them because they knew it. It was in my records. And so what I'm here for then, as I said, one nation under God, indivisible with liberty and justice for all, includes atheists. So I'm asking religious people to recognize that it's just not Christianity. It's just not evangelicals. It's just not Catholics. It's everybody, and that includes me.
All right. For not having any notes, I think you did real good, Jose, by the way. Mr. Woods has been here before, complaining about Veterans Affairs. And truthfully, a lot of it is out of our hands. We hired an extra VSO, Veteran Services Officer, in order to complement and enhance the service to veterans. But almost everything you say, Max complained also about the taxes before, but that is something decided by the state of Oregon. And as you mentioned, of course, the Veterans Affairs and Veterans Hospital is handled by the federal Veterans Department. So, Mac, what is it you want to show?
This is the rules that apply to every county in the state of Oregon. It's so far out of date, it stinks. It talks about surviving spouses of Civil War and Spanish-American War. How many is still living? It's got to be updated. Thank you for asking.
Where did you get that? Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, that's all right.
Yeah, where did you get that form,
Right
Matt?
over here at
Okay.
the office,
Well,
the tax assessor's office, and every county has the same rules.
Well, let's take a look at that form,
I'll give it to you.
okay,
All right.
and see what we can
Thank you,
do. I'm
Tina.
not promising.
No, you never promised me anything or anybody else. We appreciate you.
Commissioner
and your
Schrader.
honesty.
I just wanted to say hello to Jose because I remember working with you years ago, and I recognized you in the back, and I had no idea what happened, and if had I known, I would have made a huge deal over it. I think that was wrong for people to treat you that way, and this is the first, after all these years, it's the first I actually realized, because I wondered where you were because you were so active for a while. So I'm going to apologize for that. That was really terrible treatment, and I'm going to go back to the head of the Clackamas County Democrats and let her know what happened, so she knows that that this was an injustice done to you, in my opinion. So I'm glad you came today. It's nice to see you again.
Commissioner Bernard.
I'm willing to bet I've known you for 30 years. I haven't seen you in a while, but took you home many, many times. And, if I could, and I will, I apologize for any mistreatment you ever got. You never complained at all. And in all those years, I've never heard a complaint out of your mouth, except maybe about me driving too fast or something, which I don't do anymore.
Of course.
But anyway, I appreciate knowing about your issue. But one thing, and you didn't do this so much, is, you know, us scumbags sitting up here do care, and we don't always say what we say to get your vote or a donation. We really do care. And that issue needs to be solved at the state. I would love to help on that, to fix that. I agree with the idea of greater property tax deductions. It's not something we can do here at the state. AOC, I don't know, we might bring this up at AOC, Association of Oregon Counties, to see if, you know, if they supported that kind of idea, might be something we could move forward at the legislature. But I appreciate your service, and you know, and I apologize. And I hope when I hear the VA's they're getting better. They got a long way to go, and they owe a debt to all the veterans that they serve, and I hope they resolve that problem.
Let me respond to that.
Okay.
When I started complaining about my right hand, my left hand rather, and my primary care provider sent me to a hand specialist, who they're the ones that didn't send me to the OHSU, but they finally did give me some shots, and they snapped a fiber that was contracting and causing my hand to lock up. I went to the Department of Veterans Affairs, the Disabled American Veterans, DAV, who provide driving to people who can't drive, to take them to the hospital. They had me scheduled, and I gave them my meetings, paperwork of the time that I had my 2 meetings, the injections on a Monday, the snapping on the Tuesday. I couldn't drive. The DAV had my records. They knew they were supposed to come pick me up. They failed me on Monday. They didn't even have me listed. On Monday, I spoke to them, and they says, we'll go pick you up tomorrow when they snap your hand. At 9 o'clock that morning, they were supposed to pick me up at 12:45. At 9 o'clock, I received a call from the DAV telling me that they were having difficulties and they were going to pick me up earlier than 12:45. At 12:30, I called them, you haven't been here. I'm going to have to drive myself to the VA with my hand the way it is because you're not here. That's the DAV.
Jose, I've got a couple of the commissioners that want to put a couple words in. You know, I contribute to the DAV because I think they do a good job. Everybody fails somewhere. I don't think that's a consistent problem that the DAV has, and that's certainly separate of the Department of Veterans Affairs. But I think that the DAV does, Disabled American Veterans, does a pretty good job. I've also given to Wounded Warriors, but I think locally the DAV does a much better job. Commissioner Savis.
Well, first of all, thanks for your service, both of you. A lot of family were in the Navy, and when I was a kid, 9 years old, twice a day, in the morning and the afternoon, I went room to room in Long Beach Naval Hospital, delivering newspapers and seeing veterans coming back or servicemen coming back with all kinds of injuries. And I always wondered, how they did, after the fact. And always looking, if there's any veterans out there that might be listening that ever visited the Long Beach Naval Hospital, I'd really love to meet them because I always wanted to know. And you mentioned Bremerton, so I don't have any experience there, but I always wondered how a lot of people did after the fact that I met when I was a kid. And I'm sorry, you have a great story and you have a great gift of speaking, and I know that you've been quiet, but I think you might, at this point in time, what I heard today, what you've demonstrated today, is an opportunity maybe to help others by telling your story. And so I might encourage you to reconsider complaining a little bit.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
like I say, one of the things that none of you recognize, for example, being discriminated. You're discriminated because of your political party. If you're a Republican, the Democrats will talk nasty about you and vice versa for the other side of the aisle. I'm one of those that is very pleased to see the third major political party evolve in Oregon, because I think that we're going to have more voters out doing work.
Thank you. Thank you, Mac. All right. That's the
I'm
total.
responsible for bringing him in because we were stationed together way before anybody else knew about him in Long Beach, California, in the Navy and Vietnam, so I drug him in. Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you, Mac.
Sorry.
Gracias, mi amigo. All right. It is now time for the consent agenda. I'll ask the clerk to read the consent agenda by title.
Okay, the consent agenda. Under the Department of Transportation and Development, approval of a maintenance agreement with Oregon Department of Transportation for maintenance of retaining walls constructed as part of the I-205 at Strawberry Lane Overcross project. Under the Department of Technology Services, approval of the purchase of 2 Nimble storage CS500 storage arrays from CDW-G for county information storage. Under the Development Agency, approval of an easement agreement by and between EDC Industrial LLC and the Clackamas County Development Agency. And under Water Environment Services, approval of a construction agreement between Clackamas County Service District Number 1 and Realm Inc. for the Clackamas Pump Station Wet Well Rehab Project. And that concludes the consent agenda.
Thank you.
So
All right. I'll ask him for a motion.
I move we approve the consent agenda and not poll item number 2.
Not to pull. Is there a second to that?
Okay. Yeah, I'll second that.
All right. So, does anybody want to discuss this further at all?
I think I really want to talk about that number 2.
All right, you go ahead.
The 2 Nimble storage CS500 storage arrays from CDW-G. I mean, my goodness.
That's
As I look at the double Ds back in the room there, I must say, I'm impressed.
That's what happens when you show up.
Commissioners, I think we have a PowerPoint presentation
Oh,
prepared if you would like.
How a computer works.
Technical services here, the double Daves.
Well, I may not be the senior commissioner, but I am the analytical
Oh.
commissioner. So can I have more information on this before we approve it?
Gee, Willikers. We've never heard that before. All right. Now that we've fully discussed this, I think we're ready for the poll. Mary?
Commissioner Bernard.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
A double I.
Chair Ludlow.
Yes. So it passes 5-0 after so much controversy. And now, you know, what we really wait for every week, I know people are waiting out there to hear the very important county administrator update.
Well, and I have a PowerPoint for this as well.
Yeah, I bet you do.
So I've got a couple of things for you. One is just before coming into the board meeting, I received a copy of a letter from an Ellen Starr with the Belle Passy chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution, basically acknowledging 2 of our county employees from our Department of Transportation and Development. And what's notable is I've actually received communications about these very same employees in the past about the work that they've done. But this letter acknowledges the outstanding job done by Mr. Terry Learfield and Kip Hellstrom when they had come to install signs at the Barlow Pioneer Cemetery. And while there, they learned that there was a bit of a problem along the road there in the entry into the cemetery with mud, and they followed up on their own, and they made sure to deliver a little bit of gravel out there to make it safe and more attractive, and so everybody involved was quite satisfied, and that resulted in the acknowledgement of their very fine
Salute to
work.
those employees, wow. You can come to into my driveway, too.
Have you got a cemetery out there?
No, I don't.
All right, well, very good. And I've got a few other things then. One is I wanted to let you know that the Oregon Early Learning Council recently announced that it approved the Clackamas County's application for the Clackamas Early Learning Hub for a full contract with the Early Learning Division. So early learning hubs, they make resources and support more available and more accessible and more effective for children and families. And the mission of the hub is to help to create a high-quality learning system that ensures that all children are ready for kindergarten and that they're ready to read by the time they reach first grade, and that they have a reading capability at grade level by the end of the third grade. So it's good effort, and we're very happy to be able to continue that work. I don't know if you've seen the billboards kind of floating around the area, but we have a star. One of our own, Jose Rodriguez, who's a mental health therapist who works with Hispanic communities in Clackamas County, has been featured prominently on billboards throughout the region as part of a campaign by Health Share of Oregon. And of course, Health Share is it's a nonprofit collaboration that helps to support better health care delivery systems in the area. The billboards cite Clackamas County Health as a campaign partner, and we have one of the billboards right here in Oregon City. So congratulations to Jose for that effort. And then finally, we hear so much about our cable division. And once again, I'm happy to report that they have received an award and international acclaim. The AVA Digital Awards it's a international competition recognizing excellence in digital communications. And Clackamas County received recognition for 2 videos, one being, and this is close to my heart, Inside Clackamas County, Hops to Taps. So
Wow.
that was good. And then an acknowledgement as well for our 1964 Christmas flood documentary. So a big congratulations to our cable department and also to Jay Wilson from our emergency management department who worked on that flood video as well.
Were you referring to tap dancing and hopping?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah,
that's what he was
tapping,
talking
and,
about.
yeah, that's, yeah.
Yeah, especially that's dear to his heart.
If we do a sequel to that particular documentary, I'm going to volunteer to help out.
Because you know tap.
Without a tap. All right, now we will go to Commissioners' Communication. We'll start with Commissioner Bernard.
Well, this week we were in Salem at AOC, Association of Oregon Counties. It's amazing how many bills are going through. We could literally have spent 2 days going through every single bill that each of the various committees review. There are some budget considerations for domestic violence that the governor has put in his budget. And there are a lot of veterans bills and a lot of public safety bills. But, I think there's somewhere around 2,000. Can you imagine all the people watching every one of those bills and see how fast they move forward or not? One thing that I was going to suggest is that the veterans property tax, the good process might be to take that to a legislator and ask them to support a bill, maybe a rewrite of the bill. And once that got on that list, the Veterans Committee at the county and in Salem at AOC and probably lots of others might be able to push that bill forward. I mean, I'd certainly support that. And obviously, it needs some cleanup. I doubt that there are many Civil War veterans still alive. There could be, I suppose. What was that, 18?
Unless they were 5 years old.
18, yeah, it's probably unlikely. Anyway, that might be something that should be addressed. I know this was a tough week, and Valentine's Day is this weekend. Love y'all.
Thank you, Jim.
And
My candy.
well, I ate it on the way here.
Yeah.
But anyway, so, make sure that you look to those people you love who, it's not always about your wife. It's also about your family and everybody else who's important in your life. And make sure you tell them you love them, because you never know what happens.
Exactly.
And you got to make sure that my grandmother used to tell me the success to a good marriage is never going to sleep mad. And I think that is truly a message that we should all take. And also, make sure you tell the ones you love every morning that you love them. So, and night. So have a happy Valentine's Day, and I look forward to further discussions.
Thank you. Tootie, Commissioner Smith. Excuse me.
Thank you. Yes, Jim, the AOC was quite a whirlwind. We all went, all 5 of us went down. And I have to say, Clackamas County, this commission is well represented at a lot of this wasn't an event, but a membership of which we pay to be along and belong to. And the bills that are for consideration to go to subcommittees, not dissimilar to what happens in the legislature. And whereas not all of us commissioners can sit on these committees, I'm comfortable with what comes out of those committees is best for county governments and their survival and their function. So I feel pretty good about that. With that in mind, I'm going to the NACO conference next week, the National Association of County Governments, and I was recently appointed to a national committee with Rural and Agricultural Affairs, and I feel very lucky to be able to do that. While back there, I'll be learning a lot about the governance issues, what we can do to make our agriculture and timber economies better here in Oregon, hopefully, and we'll be making visits to our legislative contingency and other visits to our senators and representatives. I specifically plan to talk on the Willamette Locks, the reopening of the Willamette Locks, and the Corps of Engineers to try to make that happen. Martha and I share a lot of the same issues on this committee, and I don't want to take away your thunder on this, but she'll be joining me, and I feel very fortunate to be able to go and travel and do these things on behalf of Clackamas County. I'll be gone from February 20th to 26th, but I am sure that the remaining commissioners will keep the boat afloat.
Thank you. Commissioner Savas.
Well, I think I would like to just talk to a lot of folks. It's been a wild week, but I think the one I wanted to speak about today was a lot of the email inquiries regarding or suggestions and outreach about surrounding issues around guns and the Second Amendment. And I've been inundated with people that are pro-Second Amendment, and I think I've heard each of my colleagues here express support for the Second Amendment. I don't think there's any question of that. Recently, when I was sworn in, we were sworn in to uphold the state and U.S. constitutions. Also getting emails along the lines of background checks and people urging for background checks, and those are in place today. I know that retail gun stores do background checks regularly, and I know that there's been some analysis of how effective that is or may not be, but that is law, and I think we understand that. But I know there's an effort, a statewide effort, to try to get as many counties on board and sheriffs on board to support, somehow demonstrate their support by a letter or resolution supporting the Second Amendment. And I don't know how effective that will be statewide, but we'll see how that plays out. Apparently there's, maybe a half a dozen or so right now that have on board, and we'll be discussing this next week at our business meeting on the 19th in the evening. But I did have, in some of those communications that seemed to maybe a little bit more personal, I think some people may mistakenly presume that by us adopting a resolution that somehow we'll insulate ourselves from any legislative action, and that's not probably the case at all. And I also hope that as many people that are reaching out to us are also reaching out to their legislators and other legislators where the laws are really taking effect. I do know that, you know, there have been, you know, even this week, people have reached out to their legislators, but I hope that there's enough energy that way and doing something at the, you know, as an ordinance that we will probably pass next week. I strongly believe that we'll pass some kind of a resolution supporting the Second Amendment, but that won't protect us from what may come out of the legislature. It will send a message, and I think that's the intent. And also recognizing that this will, by acknowledging the Second Amendment, that this does not dilute or change or will stop somehow the background checks that are currently required, that are currently taking place. All those things will remain in place, as I understand it. Absent action, again, taken by our legislators. So please put as much energy as you can towards your legislators.
Thank you. Commissioner Schrader.
The chair's
It's
just
a private
poking
joke
at
here,
me.
and it's a
That's
good
okay.
one.
It's okay. It's okay. I love you all too. Happy Valentine's Day. We really have a lot of fun. And yeah, I have to say, yeah, the conversations get pretty lively, but oh, good for us. You know, what the hey? Let's just get it out there and get her done, you know? Okay. I have a few things I wanted to talk about. I wasn't here last week, but I've shared this with Commissioner Smith and hopefully the rest of my colleagues. Where I was in Silverton, where they had a conference on clues to rural community survival, and this was put on by the the Heartland Center for Leadership Development that is from Nebraska. They did it in conjunction with the Ford Family Foundation, which helped fund this. And the reason I wanted to go is because, like Commissioner Smith, we share some real concerns about our rural communities and making sure that they're prosperous. And we're talking about our estacadas, our cambis, our malalas, and you know, the issues that they've been dealing with rural communities. So I thought, when this popped up for me, I thought, well, let's just see what are some of the tools in the toolkit to help that. So I gave Commissioner Smith a copy of what they call, which I won't read them, Chair, I promise, okay?
And not a filibuster, huh?
No, I'm not
You're
gonna,
right,
not
just
gonna
joking.
filibuster today. I got in trouble for that evidently, but oh well.
No, you didn't.
You didn't get in trouble. It's just us good-naturedly giving each other a little bad time, you
That's
know.
okay. But basically, there are 20 clues to rural community survival, and I'll just say one or two: community pride, conviction that, this is very American, that in the long run you have to do it yourself, active economic development programs, a cooperative spirit. Nothing that's very surprising, but this particular book has case studies from rural communities across the United States, and they talk about what they've gone through and how they really survived and how they really jump-started a positive rural community economy. And here's something that I want everybody to remember. One of the quotes from the book is, community leaders, which would be us too, have learned that how to manage a controversial issue is as important as the subject of the controversy itself. And yeah, we're going to have some controversies, but we'll handle it. We'll handle it just fine. The other thing I wanted to point out is that, so that's what I was doing last week. I hope for the benefit of all my colleagues and that Commissioner Smith and I can continue to work on that. I had the opportunity to spend part of my afternoon yesterday with our Tourism Development Council, and they are great. They continue to innovate in the world of destination marketing, and they have leveraged multiple partnerships with local, regional, state, and national organizations to accomplish their goals. They have absolutely brought hundreds of thousands of dollars into the economies here of our rural cities in Clackamas County. In the light of our rural interests, Commissioner Smith and colleagues, in 2015, Clackamas County is hosting an agritourism summit, and that's Wednesday, March 18th at the Oregon Wine Garden, which is at the golf club, so I think we ought to go to that. Yeah, that sounds like fun. But it's a full day of networking and talking about the Oregon vision for agritourism. At the legislative level, one of the issues they have with agritourism is the liability issues. And so there is a bill, Senate Bill 341, that's coming forward that is attempting to frame liability responsibilities for farms, because as we know, as folks who've been in the rural areas, that farms have equipment, farms have fences, farms have all kinds of things that people need to be aware of so they can be safe. So it's evidently trying to limit the size and scope of liability within reason, basically making sure that people, however, who are in agritourism have the appropriate signs up. That seems very fair and reasonable to me, and I hope that we can support that bill down in Salem. Here's a 2015 travel planner for throughout Oregon, or our Mount Hood territory specifically. And it's a wonderful document that if you want to plan your vacation, stay local with multiple places to go. And here's the huge picture of Mount Hood. Finally, I'm glad that our military folks were here today. I have a copy called The Military Advantage. It's the 2014 edition, and it is the military.com guide to military and veterans benefits. So and it's online, military.com. So it's a volume that will give you all kinds of information about the benefits that you've earned. It's actually a nonprofit that has pulled this together, and they've acknowledged each branch of the U.S. military, Defense, Finance, and Accounting Services, Department of Defense, Homeland Security, Veterans Affairs, Internal Revenue Service, TRICARE, and all the folks that are out there trying to make sure veterans get what they've earned. The military.com guide to military and veterans benefits. I can certainly give the book away.
I think they were giving them away at that event.
Yeah, they were. They were giving these books away at the stand down that they had, and I snagged one because I thought, if you really want to know what's out there, these folks have put it together for you. So I'm done for the good of the order.
Thank you. As was mentioned, we all went to AOC. I was asked by newly elected Representative Taylor to talk about e-cigarettes. And I did testify to the fact that back in September, we passed an ordinance that said no use of e-cigarettes in our buildings. And I think that's totally appropriate. One of the reasons we didn't go further than that on the use of e-cigarettes was in anticipation that the state of Oregon would step up and do what they should do, so it's not a patchwork quilt of different enforcements in different counties and different cities. I hope they do that. While sitting there and watching the testimony, there came other very important testimony from nurses and healthcare professionals. This stuff, the liquid is unregulated, produced by whomever wants to produce it. Tutti Frutti, cotton candy. Does that sound like it's not oriented towards children? And thus is the fear. I was listening to OPB a couple of weeks ago, and there in OPB was a Portland State professor who has maintained through his research that when you turn those things up on high, especially the delivery system has formaldehyde in it, and that it deposits in your lung. And formaldehyde is a known carcinogen, so it's very interesting testimony, and we certainly hope that the legislature does the right thing by that. I went yesterday to a regional mayors and county chairs meeting hosted by the president of Metro. Very interesting, and later on I'll share that during our other meetings. Yeah, pretty much. The decisions in a synopsis of what we've made this week are: we've approved the vector control work plan. We allowed a Scott Sedaris name clearing. We pretty much obligated to join the Oregon Public Entity Excess Pool. As with every county, let alone city out there, the majority of lawsuits against us come in conjunction with the sheriff's office. And it's not necessarily that the sheriff did things wrong always, certainly not. It's a fact that people are litigious by nature nowadays, and they feel that their rights were violated when the sheriff's deputy puts hands on them. It happens out there. So we're not in that boat alone, and it causes us great liability, and we must protect our citizens, our taxes, and certainly this entity, the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners and their staff, as necessary through our legal offices to answer all charges. Hey, the state of the county. Mary's going to put something up on the screen, and I like the way this has turned out over a period of time, because you're invited to a special live State of the County event Tuesday, March 10th at 7 p.m. to ask your commissioners questions and learn more about their priorities for 2015 and beyond. Now, what I will do is deliver the message, and what I like about that is, and commensurate with one person who got up here one time and said, "Ludlow, you're the leader," and she said it quite angrily. But the fact of the matter is, I am one leader. All 5 of us are leaders, or we would have never been where we are today. And so it is very appropriate that I deliver the message of the county, but the questions go to all of us, and I think that's going to turn out real well. I want to say, I'd heard Jose talk about, you don't know what discrimination is like, and let me share this with you. And I don't whine about this, but it's helped make me the person I am, I think. When I was very young, my mother, as I mentioned, was the abuser, and she broke off a quart beer bottle and tried to kill my father. She missed my father and hit me square in the face. Thus, 100 stitches, nose, cheek, above my eyebrow, my lip, and when I was young, those were all pink, and I was called Scarface by all my peers. Scarface. That went on for years. Then I broke my elbow somehow. I didn't have to lose the elbow, but my arm is very crooked, and I had to wear braces and casts and numerous operations, and I became known as the cripple, in fact, Scarface cripple. And then I gained weight. Jeez, have I ever lost it, right? I gained weight, a lot of weight, and so I became Scarface cripple fat boy. And you know what you say, but that was terrible of other people. Certainly it was, but it helped make me who I am today. And frankly, it's made me fearless. There ain't nothing I ain't heard derogatory about myself. In the summer between my 8th grade and freshman year, I grew 6 inches in height, and then and only then was I known as Sir. So I just want to share that with you because we've all suffered our pain and discrimination. We've all been called names, some of us not to the extent of others. And so I want to certainly appreciate that Jose says he was discriminated against, and that's certainly unacceptable. The last I'd like to read to you is something I have as part of my signature here at the county, and I think it is so important since it's Valentine's Day coming up. And commensurate again with what Jim Bernard said, we should tell other people, not necessarily even that we love them, that we appreciate them. And the quote is from Leo Buscaglia, and it says, "Too often we underestimate the power of a touch, a smile, a kind word, a listening ear, an honest compliment, or the smallest act of caring, all of which have the potential to turn a life around." So go out there today and every day and actually, what Jim said is true. Tell a person you love them, but seek out truthful compliments to people and lay one on them today and every day, because truthfully, it helps you as much as it helps them. So ladies and gentlemen, there being no further business before the Clackamas County Commission this day, in 2 days, have a nice Valentine's Day.